A simple love story, the BioWorld version. Once upon a time, there was a male called Adam and a female called Eve. But wait, the love story is not about them. The hero of our story is Spermy, and his love is Ova. Now they lived in two separate worlds, not knowing of each other's existence until Adam and Eve fell in love. So when they got married, Spermy and Ova realized that they wanted to meet. What they didn't know is that they were in two different systems. So we are going to learn about how Spermy overcame the challenges to meet Ova. Ova and Spermy wanted to meet each other desperately, but how could they? Ova was not mobile. Spermy was. So Spermy was very optimistic. He was confident with his flagella and all the energy that he had stored, he'd be able to swim to her. But Ova was concerned whether Spermy knew how to find her. Spermy just asked for location. Now Spermy sets off confidently on his journey. Uh-oh, only to realize that he was lost. How was he actually supposed to reach Ova? He was crushed. So in today's video, we are going to learn about how Spermy found his way to Ova, that is, the passage from the testis, that is Spermy's home, to the oviduct, where Ova was waiting for the process of fertilization. Come join me. Spermy's journey will start from the seminiferous tubule, that is where spermy was synthesized through spermatogenesis. Then spermy will move to the Sertoli cells in the seminiferous tubule to absorb glucose so that spermy can generate ATP using his mitochondria. Then spermy moves on to the epididymis, okay, where spermy will actually rest. Okay, but biologically, spermy will mature there and then only move out through the vas deferens, which is a long tube, and then enter the ejaculatory duct to collect more fluid and nutrition before finally leaving via the urethra. So after traveling this journey, spermy wonders, is he anywhere nearer to Ova? What do you think? Let's see. This is Spermy's world, the male reproductive system. So where in this system had Spermy traveled? Let's look at his map. First, Spermy originated from the seminiferous tubule, that is in the testis. Then Spermy gathered glucose or absorbed glucose from the Sertoli cells, which are also within the seminiferous tubule inside the testis. So Spermy didn't move much, he stayed here. Then Spermy moved up to the epididymis to mature. Okay, so he moved a little bit. After the epididymis only, Spermy went on a very long journey up the vas deferens. Okay, then Spermy had to cross a few little glands before he arrived at the ejaculatory duct. So you see, as Spermy passed from the vas deferens to the ejaculatory duct, Spermy had to cross a few structures here. Let's label them. Up here is the bladder, okay, where urine is accumulated. That is not related to the reproductive system. Okay, the one that is related to the male reproductive system is the seminal vesicle, the prostate gland, and the Cowper's gland. These three glands actually provide secretions that help spermie swim in a fluid that is rich in nutrition. After that, spermie travels down the urethra and finally out of the male reproductive system. But remember, ova is in another system. So let's guide spermie further. Now, there's a warning. When spermie wants to enter the new system, the system is not a friendly system. The system is acidic. So how will spermie survive the acidic environment of ova's home? Well, spermie has a solution. Spermie will be protected by a layer of alkaline that will neutralize the acid. So now spermie is ready to embark on his journey. Now spermie has his alkaline protection on, and his next problem will be to identify ova. But then ova has a solution. She will be secreting a chemical that will direct spermie towards her. So now spermie is prepared. Spermie enters the vagina, goes up to the cervix, moves into the uterus, and arrives at the fallopian tube where he meets the love of his life. So that is the bio-love story between spermie and ova. Now, spermie had to travel a lot. Let's imagine what an interview about spermie's journey would be like. Mr. Spermie, how did you survive the acidic environment of the female reproductive system? For that, I had my alkaline medium protection layer. It helped neutralize the acidic environment, so spermie could travel safely from the vagina to the cervix. But then, how did Mr. Spermie travel through this huge space called the uterus? Wouldn't spermie have run out of energy? Well, of course, spermie had a lot of ATP because spermie could continuously synthesize the ATP from the mitochondria located in spermie. But spermie was also helped by the contraction of the uterus muscles that enabled spermie to be pushed upwards. So then once in the uterus, how did Mr. Spermie know whether to turn left or turn right? For that, we have to thank ova, because as spermie was traveling up, ova was doing her own thing. That is, she was ovulating. She broke free from the Graafian follicle and escaped into the fallopian tube. Then at the fallopian tube, ova started to secrete chemicals that help spermie to decide which way to go. This type of movement is called chemotaxis. So I hope my little bio love story was as much fun to listen to as it was for me preparing it. But actually it was describing the passage from the testes to the oviduct for the purpose of fertilization. So I hope you learned the biology behind the story. Now we move on to what happens after spermie meets ova, that is the actual process of fertilization. Okay, now enough of the cute ovum and cute sperm. Let's get more serious. Let's look at the detailed structure of the secondary oocyte. Now, when the secondary oocyte is released during ovulation, some of the follicular cells still remain attached. But these follicular cells are now called corona radiata. Okay. Then the outermost layer of the secondary oocyte, okay, after the corona radiata is the zona pellucida. Then only you have the plasma membrane and the cytoplasm with the haploid nucleus inside. Now in the cytoplasm, there are also little granules called the cortical granules. So that's the detailed structure of the secondary oocyte. Now let's look at the detailed structure of the sperm. The flagellum helps it to swim towards the oocyte. Then at the neck portion here is a large amount of mitochondria to help synthesize ATP. Then there's the nucleus here. And in front of the nucleus here, you see there is a vesicle. This vesicle is called the acrosome. And the acrosome is rich with hydrolytic enzymes. Okay, now you are familiar with the detailed structure of the secondary oocyte and the sperm. We move on to what happens during fertilization. Okay, I continue to use spermy, okay, in this diagram. Now, when the sperm arrives for fertilization, the sperm must first pass through the corona radiata. This process is quite simple because corona radiata is made up of cells, so the sperm can actually push the cells aside to cross through the corona radiata. But once it arrives at the zona pellucida, you see zona pellucida is made out of a glycoprotein layer. So it cannot enter that easily. So what happens in step 2 is that the sperm will actually bind to a receptor located in the zona pellucida. And once it is attached to the receptor, what happens is the acrosome will burst. Remember, I've told you that the acrosome has got hydrolytic enzymes. So the enzymes will then start to break down the glycoprotein and digest the zona pellucida so that the sperm can pass through the zona pellucida layer. Once the sperm has successfully digested the glycoprotein in the zona pellucida, it will fuse to the plasma membrane of the secondary oocyte. This will enable the nucleus of the sperm to move into the cytoplasm. Once the nucleus has entered, the cortical granules will begin synthesis of an enzyme which it will release by exocytosis. The secondary oocyte will start to synthesize new types of glycoproteins which will be deposited in the zona pellucida. And this will actually cause the zona pellucida to become impermeable to sperms. The reason why this happens is actually to prevent a condition called polyspermy. That is, to make sure fertilization is only between one egg and one sperm. So that is why even in the case of twins, it is still fertilization between one egg and one sperm. If you have noticed, all this while we call this structure as the secondary oocyte. But now I've written ovum. That is because the moment the nucleus of the sperm touches the nucleus of the secondary oocyte, the secondary oocyte will carry out meiosis II to form the haploid ovum and another small cell called the polar body. But since the polar body is of no function, it will shrink and disappear. Then we find fertilization has occurred. Okay, once the DNA of the sperm and the DNA of the ovum mix together. The final product is what we call as a diploid zygote. So I conclude today's discussion on the passage and development of sperms from the testes to the oviduct, which is the fallopian tube for fertilization, as well as describe the process of fertilization. So in my next video, I'll be talking about the process called implantation. See you soon. Bye-bye.